Good morning, everyone. It gives me immense pleasure to extend to you a very warm welcome in session 2 of ADCORE IP to 2023. We welcome the Honorable Secretary, MoES, Dr. M. Ravichandran, Mr. David Eggleston, Deputy Councillor General of Australia, and T. Balasubramaniam, the Vice Chancellor of Chettinad Academy and Research Education. As this session is dedicated to the future generation of the nation, our students, I request Honorable Secretary, MoES Dr. M. Ravichandran, to start with initial remarks and words of motivation to the students. Sir.
Thank you. Very, very good morning to all of you. Of course, thank you for coming to this campus to know about what we are doing, as well as to take, as you are the torchbearer for the future generation. As you know, ocean is having, of course, oceans has oceans of opportunity, but at the same time, it is has an equal number of challenges. When I talk about opportunities, oceans having a lot of resources, and also it is basically it is a regulating weather and climate. You know, meteorological department gives weather forecast, so they can give a forecast only for few days. The memory is available in the atmosphere only for few days, whereas ocean is having a memory much long, so that we can go for a medium range, in the 10 days future forecast, or month or season. Before season occurred, we can forecast from the ocean memory. It can hold a heat of that first 3 meters, it can hold the entire heat of atmosphere. So that much it is having a heat reservoir. And every oxygen what we breathe, alternative breathed oxygen comes from the ocean phytoplankton. If it is no phytoplankton in the ocean, we will not able to breathe the next half of the breath things. And also it is having enormous number of resources. Resources means you can take about the important resources like food, like fisheries or seaweeds or many things. And then we have energy resources. We have a lot of energy resources. The ocean, it is untapped. You can have a ocean thermal energy, you can have a offshore wind energy, you can have a salt gradient energy, you can have a mechanical energy from currents, waves, tide, many other energies are there. So we need to harness that energy. And also we have a food, energy, and water. We have a plenty of water, but it is a salt water, so we need to have a desalination. And the desalination, conventional desalination like reverse osmosis and other things, it is having some other problem, environmental problem. So we need to think about some alternative technology, how we can harness the ocean for water in a sustainable manner as well as environmentally friendly manner. Because we are placed in the tropical region, we are fortunate to have the ocean warm at the surface and subsurface. The gradients are having more than 20 degrees, so we can extract energy and water from that gradient. So there are a lot of resources, as well as one, it is not only harnessing the resources, but also equally we need to protect the ocean and preserve the ocean for the future generation. We need to have a health of the ocean to be intact. So we have to have what is called sustainable utilization of the ocean resources. So that is more important. That is why blue economy is come into picture. Many of you know that what is blue economy. Basically it is an ocean economy plus sustainability. Ocean economy is one-way traffic. You harness from the ocean whatever you want, but you have a sustainability as well as environmentally friendly nature we should have. Then only we can call it as a blue economy. So India is also coming out with blue economy. So maybe when you come to this stage, so you will be mostly dependent on the blue economy related stuff. As you all know that the blue economy contributes roughly about 4% of GDP as of now. So we need to go for at least double the figure or double the rate, present rate. For that we need to work for it in terms of technology, in terms of understanding the ocean better, in terms of modeling, and in terms of various aspects of the ocean we need to understand well. For that, I think your there are a lot of opportunity not only for studying but also understand and do more things in the ocean area. Of course, when you talk about the coast, it is very complex area. The ocean and atmosphere is one interaction, the complex phenomena, and land and sea is another complex. So this coast is complexity of complexity. So that is why this particular area, you require multidisciplinary nature. We require physics, chemistry, biology, engineering, and pharmaceutical, drug from sea, pharmaceuticals, and all disciplines we need in this area for coastal research. So that is why we are looking forward, the young generation, especially future, how we can fruitfully utilize the ocean, at the same time preserve and prevent the healthy ecosystem in place for not only for us, the resources is not only for us, it is also for future generation. So we have to keep in mind that in that aspect, various aspect of science, research, and education is very important. So in that aspect, that is why we need to educate our colleagues and friends and younger generation, and you also propagate your friends and people about the importance of the ocean, not only goodness, as well as we need to keep the healthiness of the ocean in terms of keeping, whatever the carbon dioxide we are releasing, that all this goes to ocean. So it is absorbing. If it is absorbing, then but there is a limit to absorb. So we need to have how to make that in a different way. For example, you plant a seagrass, it will absorb the carbon dioxide. So that the conservation we need to be making properly. So with this few remarks, then I will just request our colleague also to say a few words. Then later on we can go with the whatever question and answer from you. You can ask any questions or anything. We can always answer it if you know. If you don't know, it is your duty to answer it. Okay. Thank you.
So thank you very much for the kind opportunity to speak today. And I feel very fortunate with such esteemed colleagues around me today. And also, I think, such bright minds in the room. But I might start by saying I'm David Eggleston, the Deputy Consul from the Australian Consulate based here in Chennai. And I wanted to ask, so how many people here have been to Australia? Just put your hand up if you have. So maybe not many. But how many have got family or friends in Australia? So a few more. So what I'd like to say there is that in Australia, the Indian community is the second largest foreign international community in Australia. And I think it's just showing how close Australia and India are becoming that now the Indian community is the second largest. I think because when we look at coastal communities and the blue economy, we are also very much talking about people. So it's how we can better utilise and better manage our oceans and coastal areas to ensure that we as people and as society can maintain the ocean for a sustainable future, but also look at those opportunities that we might be able to realise from the blue economy. I think technology is an area that can very much help us also better understand our oceans, so better access to data. So maybe some of you in future might go into information technology or data sciences. I think they're all great areas that you could further investigate when we look at research. I also see there are a few uniformed people in the room. So you're at the Naval Academy or the Naval College. So I think that's the other element of the blue economy and the oceans is how we maintain a secure ocean for all our prosperity in future. Australia and India are working very closely in a number of areas to improve our security for the Indo-Pacific. And I think India being placed in the centre of the Indian Ocean and Australia on the eastern coast, I think we both see ourselves as the custodian of the Indian Ocean. So we'd like to work together more with India to see how we can better manage that Indian Ocean for future security and prosperity and for the communities in both Australia and India. So thank you very much for the opening remarks now, and I look forward to any questions.
Good morning, every one of you. It's a great pleasure to meet such a large gathering of young minds. And you are so fortunate to have the Helm of Affairs Chief, the Minister of Earth Science, former Secretary and present Secretary. Former Secretary is Dr. P.S. Goyal and present Secretary is Dr. Rajendra. And we have former directors also. And we have Dr. Venkatesan, who has a passion for motivating youngsters rather. And for the want of time, I don't want to, because the time is already running short, I don't want to put you in any trouble. My only thing I would like to caution you is that the ocean is yours. It is not ours, it is yours. So you have to take the necessary steps how best you can conserve the ocean, the biodiversity, the resources, sustainable utilization. That is what our secretary has said about. So those things you should make a framework. And at this age, probably I heard that you are all belongs to 8th standard, 9th standard, and 10th standard like this. And we are so happy and proud of you that you have so much interest on our ocean. Why our coast? Why, what is special in our coast? And how clean our coast? So that kind of questions you raise. And what do we know about the resources, the biological resources? Are we going to the beach only to enjoy the sea breeze or to get the waving motion on our feet? No. As young students, you should know what are all the potential resources in this area. So with this small briefing, maybe I will interact with you a little more if time permits. Otherwise, we are ready to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your initial remarks. Now it's time for students for which we are waiting. So we will start the interaction of you with our dignitaries. We have the one eminent panel with us, Dr. M. Ravichandran, Secretary MoES, Mr. David, Deputy Councillor General of Australia, Dr. P.S. Goyal, sir, former Secretary of MoES, Dr. V. Sampath, sir, former Director of NCCR. We have Dr. Venkatesan, sir, former scientist of NIOT. So we'll start the interaction session. So I am sure all students have come with so many questions. So who wants to start with first?
Who will be the first? Please raise your hand. Yeah, please.
You can have mic there.
Please introduce yourself, your
Namaste.
name and which school. Please.
Namaste, I am Anvita from DAV Public School, Velachery. I had recently learnt about ocean acidification when I was doing a project on it. And I realized that corals are the most important resource that we have, and it's the home for many marine animals. But these are being degraded due to ocean acidification. Especially coral bleaching is becoming a prominent issue nowadays. What can we do to address it?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question what you said about ocean acidification. Ocean acidification is basically what we talk about variation in the pH. You all know about pH, you would have studied in the school. A small variation in the pH is affecting the marine organisms and their growth and basically their structure. That is what is alarming situation we have. Coral reef, not only by acidification, we have challenges by anthropogenic effect. We discharge our sewage and also from the agriculture wastage, it comes into that. And in addition to that, temperature variation due to climate change, that is also affecting that. So the important measures what the government all over the world and United Nations, the government of India is taking care is that these coral reef areas are declared as a marine protected areas. There are definite measures which have been taken care. And NCC are also working on a monitoring mechanism, measuring data and collecting and working on it. So with our ministry's involvement, we too have our assistants with INCOIS. They are working on prediction and forewarning, and they too have a models. This advancement of technology and also the awareness among the public as you go and see for the recreation and tourism purpose. We preserve these the pristine, like what you said, the coral reef like in Gulf of Mannar close to us, it houses about 3,000 organisms in that region. So this is what, and these coral reefs are 300, 400 years old. So it is for our duty to protect and leave it for the future generation. Very good question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Who wants to ask the next question?
Yes, please.
Also, great question on the corals. I'd like to follow up on that question. I realize that the Great Barrier Reef of Australia is acting as a brilliant way to reduce like ocean currents so that it prevents flooding, especially on coastal regions. I just want to ask, algal blooms, which I've been reading about recently, are affecting coral life by creating asphyxiation, starvation, and lack of sunlight. Can we use hydrogen peroxide, which is pretty much harmless to aquatic organisms, for reducing the growth of these algae? And is it also possible if we can make this commercial?
No, we have excellent comparison is available now. We have Australian coral, Great Barrier Reef, which is the biggest one. Whereas in India, we have both in mainland as well as in island. And that is the major advantage for India. And definitely there are a lot of opportunities, whatever you ask, there is there. But at present, we are bothering more for the conservation of these corals. Sir, please, Des.
I might also add, I'm not a scientist, so I won't be able to comment on the science, but for someone who's been to the Great Barrier Reef, it is spectacular. And it's one of the few places in the world where if you do go diving, the fish and the coral actually look as bright as they do when you look at the photos and the visuals. So it is something that we do need to conserve and maintain and look after. And from the Australian government point of view, we have put a lot of money into ensuring that barrier reef is there for future generations, so for future, especially for the biodiversity objectives, but also for tourists, so that people can also enjoy that in future. So there is a lot of scientists, and there's a research centre in North Queensland, which is where the Great Barrier Reef is, which is investigating better ways to ensure that biodiversity and the reef is sustainable in future. So there might be someone with more of a science background who might know around the exact question you're asking, but I know, and I suppose it's reassuring to know that there are great minds who are also looking at these things, and there may be some more great minds in this room in future years who can also look at these problems.
Yeah. What is the specific question about the harmful algal bloom? You mentioned something?
Yes, so curbing algal bloom with the use of hydrogen peroxide, because hydrogen peroxide upon contact with water dissociates into water and oxygen, which is a strong oxidizing agent which depletes the cell membrane of the algae as well as provides oxygen to the corals, like enhancing their growth. Is this an economic way of supporting the growth, or is it not too viable?
See, in general, whatever the things are happening in the ecosystem, we need to have a nature-based solution. Okay, that is the first thing. So nature-based solution, what are the nature-based solution? We have to look for the things. Anything artificial or anything if you do, and the ocean is huge, it cannot be there. Even you remember some of the things scientists tried for many such experiments, but that are all failed. Especially they want to have a more productivity. So there is a big experiment as done in Southern Ocean, but it is all not possible in such a big, large scale. So we need to identify and find out the solution nature-based. Suppose coral reefs are there, so we need to conserve, number one. And now suppose more and more people are cutting the tree. What we are doing? We are cutting also, but we are planting also. Similarly, we can have more and more coral reefs, so that is one thing. And then alternative effect also we can also think of, because basically it is what is happening is a carbon dioxide. More carbon dioxide is absorbed by the ocean, thereby it's acidic. So that carbon dioxide we can absorb by some other material in the ocean. Like I was mentioning about the seagrass. You plant more seagrass, that seagrass will absorb more carbon dioxide so that it will not be acidic. So then coral will be surviving. So that type of nature-based solution is more important than the artificial or many other chemical reactions and other things.
Now, there are a lot of transplantation of corals and then allow them to grow more. And then assessing the resources, rich biological resources. Because after all, we are very keen to know our recreation. We need to create more corals. And because we are attracted by the attractive fishes, the colorful fishes, variety of fishes. See, one example, our Indian scientists, what we are doing, trying to do, is to breed those coral fishes in the laboratory, so that you need not go for catching. You name a fish, we don't catch it, we produce it. And that kind of concept is coming up. Unfortunately, the Ministry of Earth Science has an excellent ongoing program in Laccadives, especially for breeding of the ornamental fishes, especially the clownfish. That is one of the best demonstrated throughout the country, which has a lot of export value also. So why I am telling this, not necessarily should be done only in the Laccadives Island. It can be done even in the mainland. As a small cottage industry, it is possible. Only thing, you should have the passion, you should have the willingness to keep the aquarium as well as to produce in large quantities. We have technology, we have the concerned scientist is also with us. One Dr. Ajit Kumar from ICAR, originally from marine biology, he only set up the things in the Laccadives. So there are a lot of opportunities for youngsters. So the one aspect is on coral, no doubt.
See, actually she was referring to the algal blooms and things like that. How can you prevent it? Because you cannot use the hydrogen peroxide or any such thing. But the only solution is to prevent the entry of the pollutants into the waters. And once you prevent that, automatically the production of the algal blooms can be stopped, and then it will be having its own impact on the growth of the corals. The other one is, when a coral is dead, the algae starts growing on them. So it is an indication that that particular coral species has died. And if you have to replenish that coral, as Dr. Balasubramanian said, you need to go for artificial transplantation of the corals, live corals in that particular place. If you allow the polyps to grow, because the coral, outside, the external structure is only a calcareous material, whereas the coral, live coral is identified by the organisms which are present inside the coral reefs. So I think the best solution to stop the algal bloom from appearing is to prevent the entry of the land-based sources of pollution or the sea-based sources of pollution. Right.
Anyone?
Who is interested?
You just tell your name and school name also just before asking.
Yeah, see who is there? Next question?
Yeah.
Please.
Namaste, I am Shreya Vipai of DAV Velachery, and my question is, recently scientists have discovered new species of bacteria like Iodinella sacchaensis which decomposes plastic polyethylene. So can we release huge numbers of these bacteria into the oceans in hopes that it will clean up the plastic, or will it prove counterproductive by becoming an invasive species and, wiping out all of the flora and fauna?
See, these are all rare species. routinely, and thereby you can create lot of awareness among common public. When young people doing something, then immediately everybody will follow it up. So it is in your hand only, you can avoid the plastic pollution.
Thank you, sir.
Again, the same issue of, the land-based and the sea-based sources of plastics, that needs to be stopped. I think once you stop that, then there won't be any problem at all. But it takes millions of years for these plastics to get decomposed and things like that. And the only thing is to go for recycling and reuse of the plastics, by which, you can reduce the impact of the plastics on the sea.
Thank you, sir. As we are running out of time, we can take one more question.
Hello, sir. So, I'm Raja Kritika from Fatima Matriculation High Secondary School. Sir, as you were talking about preventing the land pollution into the sea, are we taking any methods to prevent them actually? Because I've already, as far as I know, I've learned that 80% of plastics or 80% of waste are from just 1% of rivers. And also, the amount of plastic produced every year is almost equal to the population of human on planet Earth. So what are we doing actually to prevent all these?
Maybe.
Yeah, only the land-based sources of pollution, for preventing that, there are a lot of, rules and regulations which have been put in place by the Ministry of Environment and Forest. But the problem is when the plastic enters the rivers and it enters the sea through the land runoff, there is no question of, preventing it at all. The only thing, it's to start at the source.
Yes.
The people who are using the plastics, that's why Dr. Balasubramanian said,
Yes.
the plastic, if you stop using the plastics, even though there are a number of rules and regulations, for preventing the use of plastics, nobody is following it. That is the major problem. The enforcement mechanism is very weak. I think we need to strengthen the enforcement mechanism by which, you can ban the complete use of plastics by the human beings. That is one. In case, I don't know whether you people might have gone to some of these, supermarkets. In some of the supermarkets, they have placed a billboard saying that carry your own bag.
Yes.
Bring your own bag. So if you go take your only bag to the shops and buy the things in your manjapai. Normally we call it as manjapai in Tamil Nadu.
Yes, sir.
And the Tamil Nadu, and the idhila paiya edutittu poi neenga saaman vaangineenga kuda, then you can prevent the use of plastics. So I think this is one of the major issues which we need to consider.
Yes,
But the other thing is the central and the state pollution control boards. They periodically monitor the load of pollutants in the rivers as well as in the marine environment. And then the Environment Ministry gives them the directives as to how it should be treated. So once you treat the waste on the coast or on the land and discharge it into the sea or in the backwaters, I think you can prevent the entry of the plastics or any solid waste into the open sea.
See, also river mouth, you can filter it. Before
Yes, sir.
going to the sea. Many of the places it is put in river mouth, there are filters, especially in the Vizag and other places.
Yes.
So similar way we can put up filtering also. Those who are not able to do that is also.
The problem is once you use the filter, it will filter out all the marine organisms which are
Filter means not that one. It is like a bigger one.
Bigger mesh, which will allow the fish.
mesh.
It will allow the water
Okay.
organisms,
There's a-
nutrients and everything. But at
there's
the
a
same
Bangalore
time,
batch.
I'll give you a different view altogether from our experts from Ministry of Science. The science and the human behavior, they have to interlive together. Many problems in the world have been created by science or scientists. One example, we started using a refrigerator, and the refrigerator uses a gas. And the gas we were using was being released to atmosphere and causing ozone hole. How it was fixed? If someone had told that don't use refrigerator, it won't work. It was solved by creating alternate gas which does not cause ozone hole. So today, ozone hole is fixed by science also. So science created a problem, science always solved it. Now, let's look at the plastic. whatever Dr. Sampath says, the human behavior and commercial, cannot stop plastic. I mean, governments throughout the world have restricted the plastic use one time or use or 10-time use. It cannot be stopped unless you create equally different material which is degradable and as convenient. See, you want to go to market, buy vegetable, the plastic is very convenient. So we have to find engineering solutions to these problems. Now, alternate material. So actually, I agree with you to some extent. You should control. It's not that you should do that, but that will not solve the problem of the world. We have to come as a alternate material. So there's one part. Now, question is, what your role? You are all young, and you compete for getting marks, right? You should do that. Nothing wrong in that. Today is a race, and you want to win a race. But ultimately, what is the goal? Ultimate goal of every individual has to be that we have taken from the society which has evolved over millions of years. The human beings, there's a not fixed time, but at least we are 1 million old, and from there we have evolved. So all that cumulative knowledge we have got. So as a person, you're born, you're getting advantage of that. How much you can give back? Can I give an iota or a small component of that back? So ultimately, why you are studying hard, why you want to make a career, is not just because of making money. That is important. You must make money. If someone tells you, no, don't make money, become a sannyasi and all that, he's not doing the right thing. You have to make money, you have to make progress. All of you must have car. So if you all have a car, obviously there will be more carbon dioxide. But let's go to hydrogen. If the car comes in 10 years with hydrogen, you won't have pollution. So the solution is again coming from engineering and science. So your hydrocarbon will be replaced by hydrogen. So we have to look in that term. So what all of you have to take is, can I make a small difference to this society? And I'll tell you one small story. A story is written by someone, I just saw a video film. A writer was sitting on the ocean, on the coastal area. He was trying to get some inspiration. And one fellow, he was walking along the coast. And he saw that this young fellow, picks up something and throws back into the ocean. And he was surprised what this fellow is doing. So again, next day he came to the same place. Again, the same fellow came, he was picking something and throwing back to the ocean. Third day, this writer could not have patience. He went to him and asked, what are you doing? He said, there is a jellyfish, the sea wave bring it back to coast and they die. So I'm sending back to the ocean and throwing back. The writer was knowledgeable. He said, look fellow, India itself has got a 7,500 kilometer coast. World has got a few lakhs kilometer. You're throwing in 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer, it makes a difference. The young fellow said nothing. Next time he picked up a fish and threw it, and he said, it make a difference to that one. So there's a difference of outlook. It's not the statistics. He is making a slight difference. So make a slight difference in your life, in the life of other people. That is the essence of life. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Before we move on, we have some volunteers also from the Met University BSc Nautical Science students. So if they have any question and they want to ask, we can take one more question. If anybody wants to ask. Okay. Yes.
Okay, now we move on with a popular science talk, which, okay, before that, let's felicitate our dignitaries. Mr. David Edison. former Secretary General. Okay, sorry.
I request Dr. M. Ravichandran, Secretary MoES, to felicitate Mr. David Ellingston. I request Ravichandran sir to felicitate Balasubramaniam sir.
My dear young minds, one more important thing, this being made handmade product. It's not synthetic. And they were able to carve everything, including significance of mango. Thank you.
Okay, now we move on with a popular science talk which will be delivered by Dr. T. Balasubramaniam. Allow me to provide a brief introduction about speaker, the advisor and former Vice Chancellor of CARE.
The ideas I have already shared with you. There is no need for any special talk. Bearing that, whatever I have been repeatedly telling, it is how often you visit the beach, how often you see the ocean. Is there any change in the appearance in terms of color? That is what she has been asking about the bloom, maybe green or brown. So you should routinely observe, and then you should inform your school that this time the sea is something different. And similarly, when you see the catches, is there any specific things are there? Because are we getting routine catch or we are getting invasive species? Something very new to our waters. So those things you should constantly monitor, young people. And that is the reason, if you do that, then almost our beaches will become blue beach. We get the international ranking that our beaches are clean and become blue beach. That is one thing. And the second important thing I would like to inform you is that India is bestowed with variety of biotopes, coastal biotopes, whereas temperate is not like that. Temperate waters doesn't have, whereas tropical waters we are bestowed with, especially India is bestowed with, we have mangroves, we have corals, we have mudflats, so variety of lagoons, backwaters, estuaries, all are there. So you have to find out why all these differences, why it is important, what kind of role they play, how it is being useful in the evolutionary significance of organisms. That you have to look into that. And when you do that, obviously you will come for marine biodiversity. That is the buzzword everywhere. So you should assess what kind of populations are there. And I don't want you to confuse with so many things. If you go for nearby beaches, find out and then go for literature survey, what is the regional biodiversity which is available in that area, and then is there any changes are there, that you should find out. And that is where the pollution comes, because the change when it happens, when there is a pollution, there's a change happens with the organisms. So that we have to find. And you should make hue and cry when there is lot of plastic pollution or sewage disposal or industrial pollution. You should represent to your school as well as to the state government or district authorities. That kind of thing you should develop. So every school they have eco club, and the eco club, those who are very close to the sea, you should focus more on the marine environment. By saying that, I don't ignore the fresh water. Without fresh water, again marine organisms, they may not be able to survive. So that is also there. And when both are there, then only you can develop the mangrove. Just now I told you that there are number of livelihood options available for the coastal population. The one such a role is that the culture of the ornamental fishes, which I have already told you. we have successfully demonstrated more than half a dozen, 12 different species of clownfish, and then ornamental shrimps and other fishes. It is being already there. So that we can propagate. That is one activity. The second activity is that, see, we are thinking about the bioshield, creating bioshield along our coast. And the bioshield is by mangrove. So the mangrove seedlings, the mangrove nursery we should develop. And that is another important thing where the schools can also contribute towards developing a mangrove nursery through their school, by the participation of school students. It is possible. And third important thing, importantly we have in the coastal waters, the seaweeds and seagrasses. That you have to find out what are all the seaweeds and seagrass which are available in our waters, how it is useful in promoting the productivity. And there again, India, unfortunately, only in the 5-star hotel we go for delicious ice cream, things like this, made of seaweeds. But we need to identify, potentially develop seaweeds for routine consumption, the green grasses like routine consumption for every day. That kind of activities we should develop. So all these things, definitely the young minds, if you throw your interest and ask questions, definitely you will succeed and it will be a big contribution. As our former secretary said, it is how much we contributed for our country, for our environment, and that should be the goal. If you do that, definitely we can make it. And our NCCR, the National Center for Coastal Research, which has contributed for last 25 years. See, in the last 5 years you would have seen Dr. Usha and her team, they constantly, any functions, they involve the school students. Why? Because they wanted to create awareness among students about our coast. So you be in touch with Dr. Usha all the time, definitely you will be fulfilled a lot of new ideas. Today they released an encyclopedia. It is not encyclopedia, it is coastalpedia. So that you should read. Then you don't listen to me, you will also ask so many questions on that, through that. So I think these are the things I would like to initiate and ignite your mind. So hereafter, see that you are always thinking, talking, taking action on coastal environment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your remarkable words that may inspire the students, undoubtedly. Students, do you have any questions to ask to sir based on this talk? Yeah.
I'm Ilavarasi from Fatima Matriculation Higher Secondary, and I have a question. So NCCR focuses on the adaptation to climate changes. So do we currently have any projects or environmental policies about climate change?
Yeah, they have.
Because it is a very heavily discussed issue these days.
Yes, yes. In fact, the NCCR, this is the only nodal agency to study the coastal water quality. See, unless otherwise we know the coastal water quality, and NCCR has the database for last 25 years about the coastal water quality. So based on that, now they have given a program for the MSP for the Tamil Nadu as well as Pondicherry coast. So all these things, not only for the pollution and climate, and the activities are focused nowadays, the NCCR activities are focused nowadays based on these two activities, both research as well as implementation, and the advice they give it to state governments. And notably, the first two beneficiaries are Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. And one more, Dr. Venkatesan, before I answer the question, Dr. Venkatesan has a lot of interaction with the school students because he is the Indian representative for Marine Technology Society. It's an international organization. So there, they annually conduct programs for school students. And probably, I think, maybe when's the next meeting?
We will announce, most of you are in the LinkedIn and the school will post it. We'll have next month one program. We'll keep in touch with you.
So that the participation of school students, please, if you want to do the programs related to school students, please contact Dr. Venkatesan. Yeah, now what is the question? Somebody want to ask question?
Namaste, sir. I'm Varsha from DAV Public School. Although it might be controversial, just out of curiosity, I'd like to know about the devastating implosion that had occurred in the Titan submarine. And also I'd like to know how to face these risks if we want to pursue it as a career, and what are the new technologies that are developing just to prevent this?
No, it's a very wonderful question. Our former secretary will answer this question because it has engineering solution as well as other activities. So please, sir.
You know, when in engineering, whenever such things happen, they happen not because there is lack of engineering, but because there is somewhere lack of either inspection or procedure or process. You take a simple thing. I used to give this example for a Bangalore roads. There's a road called MG Road in Bangalore. A road created in 1965 survived up to 1985 or so. There was never a problem. Near my house, there was a road. It used to be built every year, and within 3 months, there will be potholes. And you must have seen in your house also. Now, where is the fault? It's not that we don't know how to make roads. We don't know how to make good roads. But we don't make it for some various vested interests. This is a vested interest. But in engineering, many times, sometimes oversight happens. See, even in our launch vehicle space, we have seen failures, no? You are aware of that. Every time if there is a failure, we do very thorough investigation and see that that mistake never happens. But they are mostly process or procedure related. Similarly, when I don't know what caused implosion. You know what is implosion? Implosion is because of the pressure something gets collapsed. How it can happen? It can happen if the shell which is designed cannot take that pressure. See, every 10 meters you go, 1 atmosphere pressure increases. For example, when we are talking of our manned submersible for 6,000 meters, we are talking of 600 atmosphere pressure. All of you will know, how much is one atmosphere? In 1 kg per square centimeter. And when you multiply by 600 times, it's so huge. So pressure will come. Now we have to find an engineering solution. And if we make one mistake, just to give example, we are putting optical window. Now I may have designed the shell with the titanium properly, but if the optical window is not connected properly, that can give a place. So sometimes in engineering, some overlooking of things happens. We don't know exactly what happened there because we have no idea. They have not given any report except we know that there is an implosion. So I don't want to guess for you, this would have happened, that would happen. That we will not do that. But what we can do when we are designing our own systems, we are not only extra careful in designing, we are not only extra careful in processing, in implementing it, also we are testing it. So if you do in engineering these 3 processes, your design has to be robust, your process involved has to be very thorough, and then you have to do testing. So somewhere there must have been goofing. We don't know where it is, so we won't comment on that. But we have to make sure. See, when you talk of a system which involves 1 lakh component, I'm talking something like a satellite or launch vehicle. 1 component failure can be failure because it's like a chain. You have a chain and you have 1 lakh elements. 1 failure is good enough. So there can be hundreds of reasons for failure. But for success, everything has to be right. So What they have good, we don't know, right? We don't want to speculate. Is there for problem? They have to analyze. Someone was telling yesterday that they have used carbon fiber shell. Carbon fiber shell is a wrong design, but I don't think that they would have made such a mistake. There must be some other reason, so we won't speculate on that. Okay?
Yes.
So, Namaste sir, I am Bharat of class 11 from DAV Public School. I would like to move the emphasis on mining. So we are seeing our NIOT and NCCR on our indigenous vehicles like Varaha 1 and 2 on our manganese nodules mining field. So indeed, seeing it work in such depth is showing our engineering prowess and our strength in our coastal and strength and usage of coastal resources. So my question is it sustainable and productive? And I see our crawlers sifting through manganese nodules from the seabed, and our seabed is fertile and holds much of the biosystem, and it is the root of the biosystem. Won't it affect the seabed negatively? And is it also productive? Because so much efforts and funds are pouring into our manganese nodule mining, and the students also know the use of manganese nodules, but is it productive? And how does it affect our GDP?
Okay, yeah, it is very, very important point. As we speak now, the same thing is deliberating. Presently, even this NIOT director is in Jamaica, International Seabed Authority. The same issue is debated in 135 countries. So one way you are going for resources, other way you are going to create environmental degradation if you are going to mining. So what is the balance? So that is why as a scientist as well as engineer, we need to have understanding, proper understanding of the ocean. Suppose you harness this much resource